Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi makes a televised address to the nation, says after Operation Synindhur, every terrorist and every terror organization knows the consequence of wiping out the Sindoor from the forehead of India's sisters and daughters. Prime Minister Modi says after India's aggressive action, Pakistan started looking for ways to escape. Pakistan was pleading to the world for easing the tensions, and after suffering heavy losses, Pakistan's army contacted the Indian Army on the afternoon of 10th May. The militaries of India and Pakistan hold second round of talks. The top brass of India's armed forces detail how they crippled Pakistan's defences by hitting its key air bases, radars and communications. The Indian stock markets record their biggest single-day gains, up nearly 4%. Sensex settles nearly 3,000 points higher. Nifty breaches 24,900. It's the end of an era. One of India's most celebrated and successful batters calls it a day. Virat Kohli retires from Test cricket. And the US and China agree to pause their tit-for-tat tariffs for 90 days, commit to significantly reduce existing tariffs. The top brass of the Indian Armed Forces on Monday gave a detailed briefing on how India crippled Pakistan's defences by taking out its key air bases, radars and communications with visual evidence to boot. Here's a report on the briefing on Operation Synindhur by the Directors General of Army, Navy and Air Force.
The Director General of Air Operations, Air Marshal A.K. Bharati, said that Operation Synindhur targeted terror infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But the Pakistani military, in its wisdom, chose to come to aid of terrorists and personalize the conflict.
We also iterated that our fight was with terrorists and their support infrastructure and not with Pakistan military. However, it is a pity that the Pakistan military chose to intervene and bat for the terrorist, which compelled us to respond in kind.
India's robust air defense system thwarted all Pakistani attempts to target Indian installations.
This robust AD system comprises of a large variety of multi-layered AD sensors and weapon systems, from point defense weapons like the low-level air defense guns, shoulder-fired manpads, and short-range surface-to-air missiles or SAMs, to area defense weapons like the air defense fighters and longer-range surface-to-air missiles within our inventory. Additionally, the numerous waves of drones and unmanned combat aerial vehicles employed by Pakistan were also thwarted by the indigenously developed soft and hard kill counter-US systems and the well-trained Indian air defense personnel. All this was brought together as an efficient and effective AD environment by the Integrated Air Command and Control System, or the ISCCS of the Indian Air Force.
Another highlight of India's military response was the stellar performance of indigenous air defense systems such as Akash.
Another highlight has been the stellar performance of the indigenous air defense weapon system like the Akash system. I would like to mention that putting together an operationalization of this potent AD environment has been possible over the last decade due to unwavering budgetary and policy support provided by the Government of India.
Air Marshal Bharati said that all Indian military installations remain operational and ready to undertake any mission if the need arises, completely discrediting Pakistan's claims of having struck Indian facilities.
All our military bases, all our systems continue to remain fully operational and ready to undertake any future missions should the need so arise.
Director General of Military Operations, Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai, said that seamless coordination was the hallmark of Operation Synindhur.
In every single domain that Operation Synindhur has been prosecuted, there has been absolute synergy between the three services. Not only have we, in this endeavor, been fully supported by our government, departments and agencies, I cannot here not mention our 140 crore countrymen that have stood behind us with their prayers and goodwill, urging and inspiring us to achieve our mission and objectives.
Vice Admiral A.N. Pramod spoke about Indian Navy's dominance in the maritime domain.
The Indian Navy maintains a credible capability to detect, identify and neutralize any aerial platforms that threaten our units at sea. To sum up, the Indian Navy's dominance thus ensured that, should we choose to, we can strike at will.
Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting at his residence in New Delhi. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister S. Shankar, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan and all three chiefs were present among others. Bureau Report, DD India.
The second round of talks between the Directors General of Military Operation of India and Pakistan held in the evening today. Issues related to continuing the commitment that both sides must not fire a single shot or initiate any aggressive and inimical action against each other were discussed. It was also agreed that both sides consider immediate measures to ensure troop reduction from the borders and forward areas. Right, joining me are my colleagues Vishal Barristo is in Srinagar and Ankush Sharma is in Jammu. Vishal, to you first. Tell us more about the DGMO-level talks and the big takeaways from those conversations.
Well, a very good evening to you, Ramesh. Right now I am at the Lal Chowk and Srinagar, and today has been quite a successful day as far as all those peace lovers from Kashmir they were expecting, and the second round of talk has been successful, and we get to know that though the meeting got a bit delayed, but in the end it was quite successful. A hotline meeting was arranged between the DGMO of India and the DGMO of Pakistan, and both sides they have discussed how to de-escalate things, though the schedule is still awaited. But let me tell you that the points that there will not be any firing was discussed, and there should be an immediate de-escalation of troops. Remember, during the MOD briefings, we were informed that Pakistan is building up on the Western Front, and India has always been on the battle-ready mode. Both not only the Army and the Air Force, but even the Navy, that includes the INS. I beg your pardon, the INS Vikrant was also deployed in the northern part of the Arabian Sea. So the de-escalation is very much required, because unless the de-escalation is there, there would always be problems and there would always be tension. Ramesh?
Right. Ankush, what's the situation like in Jammu region?
The situation is in Jammu very normal right now, and there is no reports of cross-border shelling or drone activity spotted in the region, and the normalcy is has returned in the region, and the schools, all the schools will reopen tomorrow in Jammu region, excluding the border areas, and on the other hand, also the airport services also resumed in Jammu and as well as in Kashmir. So the situation situation is very normal here, and the as usual activities were also restored in Jammu region. And on the other hand, as we heard the address of Prime Minister Narendra Modi towards the nation, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi delivers a very strong message to the enemy that any terrorism activities will not allow in our land, and this is not an era of war, but it is also not an era of terrorism. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi conveys a very strong message to the enemy.
Indeed, coming back to Vishal, some would say that this speech of the Prime Minister will go down in history as one of his best speeches so far. He made a number of points there, including catering to a foreign audience as well. What did you make of the central message of the Prime Minister's speech? And also in particular, Vishal, you spoke about Operation Synindhur, how it has set a new benchmark in India's fight against terrorism. And he outlined 3 key points. One, that going forward, India will give a befitting response to any Pakistani provocation, number 1. Number 2, no nuclear blackmail from this moment onwards. And last but not the least, India will not differentiate between the government of Pakistan or its agencies and terror organizations. Vishal.
Well, absolutely, Ramesh, this was very much loud and clear, and it was a very timed message by the Prime Minister, because today, after the DGMO meeting took place, Prime Minister took to the nation and also to the world. Because let me tell you that it is very important to tell the world, and all those who think that they can meddle in India's affair should keep away, because this is Kashmir belongs to us, Kashmir is ours. And the Prime Minister made it very clear that next time if we are going to talk to Pakistan, it would be on terrorism only, and also more importantly on the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So very clearly Prime Minister underlined that Kashmir is an integral part of India, not only Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh, but also Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. This was his point. Then Prime Minister also said that any attempt of terror would be treated as an indication that yes, Pakistan is asking for trouble and India will go all out. It would be war against Pakistan. This time we have only given them a warning. We have only targeted their terror camps. We have only targeted their all the terror enemies sponsored by Pakistan, but still not touching their military installations. But this should be very much clear that any other adventure by Pakistan would be treated with a befitting reply. The Operation Synindhur has shown to the world India's capability. And let me also, I would also like to remind you, Ramesh, Prime Minister of Pakistan, when he addressed the press conference and his nation, he said that I'm thankful to my friends from Turkey and China, but India never did it, because India achieved all the goals on its own. India is capable of defending its borders. It does not need any help from outside or any negotiation from outside. So Operation Synindhur has proved the world-class air defense quality of the country. We all know how Akash has been very successful and how 10 years of self-reliance of the Indian Armed Forces and defense production has been very useful. So these were the highlights of the Prime Minister's speech, telling the world and the country that we are ready, armed forces are ready, and the countrymen need not worry about anything.
Indeed, Vishal, stay on. I'll come back to you momentarily. Coming back to you, Ankush, you refer to the Prime Minister's speech. How would an average person in Jammu tonight react to his speech, in which he spoke, among other things, he was very categorical that talks and terrorism cannot go hand in hand. Also, blood and water cannot be flowing together. And he also said that if talks will take place, they will only be on 2 things: terrorism and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Ankush.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi clarified that, and also conveys a very strong message to the Pakistan that there will be, if there will be talks, then it will be only on Pakistan-occupied Kashmir or on terrorism. And if I want to mention here that India is really to counter every act of terror and will never bow to threats or blackmail. So, and it also indicates that what is the future plans of India and how India is strongly planning to eradicate terrorism from roots, especially in Jammu and Kashmir. And if anything happens in future, then we already conveyed a very strong message that it will be considered as an act of war. Every citizen, every individual of Jammu and Kashmir stood with the Indian Army, stood with our security forces, with the shoulder to shoulder, and there is every person in Jammu and Kashmir is stand with our government and on the people who live in the border areas. We spoke with some of individuals. They also said that we are with our security forces, we are with our government, and the decision the government took earlier about the ceasefire, they also welcome the decision, and it is very clear from our side that there is no space for terrorism anymore.
Indeed, no space for terror, says my colleague Ankush Sharma in Jammu. Let me now go across to another of my colleagues, Debyendu Mondal, who is joining us from New Delhi. Debyendu, why don't you put the text of the Prime Minister's speech in its proper context for our viewers in India and around the world as well?
Well, Ramesh, the Prime Minister did not mince any words this time around when he was addressing the nation for the first time after the successful Operation Synindhur did take place. So therefore, this is of course a historic moment when, India for the first time entered into the deep territories of Pakistan, bombed their, had eliminated, neutralized their terrorist hubs, which is the Bahawalpur and Muridke, and apart from that, there were 7 other terrorist hubs in the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, where the Indian forces were successful in eliminating with precision the targets that we had when we were planning their entire Operation Synindhur. Of course, the Prime Minister also spoke about how terror and trade cannot happen together, terror and talks cannot happen together, and he has given a very, very firm message on the Indus Water Treaty that water and blood cannot flow together. So therefore, it's a stern message to Pakistan. It also, the Prime Minister also said that Pakistan had a taste of the India's military prowess, the military might, because we could hit the targets, the terrorist hubs within Pakistan with precision, and of course, following which, Pakistan did some misadventure, and Indian forces were well prepared with their equipments, with their most advanced military equipments to neutralize those attempts by Pakistan. And he also mentioned how made in India, manufactured in India equipments were used in this particular operation, and how the government's push for Make in India has been a successful, which was demonstrated in this particular India-Pakistan conflict. So therefore, he also spoke about, how from now on, any act of terror on the soil of India will be considered as an act of war. This is a very, very stern message that has gone to to Pakistan, it was in fact a cautionary message. It was a stern message to Pakistan, to the Pakistani military, that terror cannot flow like it used to in the earlier days, and Pakistan used to get away with it. Each terrorist act on the soil of India by Pakistan would be given a befitting reply. The Prime Minister also didn't mince his words when he said that the people who backed terrorists, or the people which he clearly indicated it could be the army or the military of Pakistan, which has been backing terrorists and giving terrorists shelter within Pakistan, they are equally involved in terror, and they will also be punished. So therefore, it's a clear message. It's a strong message to Pakistan that you cannot export terrorism and wage a proxy war against India. And the earlier policy of sending dossiers, having talks, negotiations are over. It will be any act of terror will of course be an act of war that India will consider. We will hit back we will eliminate terrorists. And mind you, Ramesh, this action, this entire Operation Sindoor was against terrorists. The Prime Minister, the army, the military, in its successive press briefing, as well as the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri in his successive press briefings, have categorically stated that India did not want any escalation. Our action was against the terrorists, and even we have seen that all our actions have been on the terrorist and the terrorist hubs, but it was Pakistan that escalated. And of course, as a matter of fact, that we needed to defend our country, our men, our civilians, and therefore we had to retaliate and hit back, and right. We did hit back very hard. So indeed. Of course, the message was loud and clear, and also he did speak about the global leaders, that for the global leaders also it is time that they take note of how Pakistan has been exporting terror to India, not just in India but also across the world. It is for the global leaders to see that Pakistan's terrorism, how Pakistan had been harboring, sheltering terrorists on their own soil, and also a clear message that nobody can meddle into the matters of India. And indeed. India has taken, right. India has taken a stand that the matter between India and Pakistan is their own. Absolutely. And no foreign power can meddle in that matter. Yes,
Devendra, thank you for your inputs. Let me also take a moment to introduce my other colleague joining me from Bhuj in Gujarat. Meghna Dev is joining us. Meghna, stay on. I'll come back to you in just a bit. Let me in the meantime pull up some more news for viewers. Prime Minister Modi addressed the nation on Monday, delivering his first speech since the launch of Operation Sindoor on the 7th of May, India's military response to the Pahalgam terror attack. In his address, the Prime Minister said Pakistan seeks survival. It must dismantle its terror infrastructure. There is no other path to peace.
पाकिस्तान को अगर बचना है तो उसे अपने टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का सफाया करना ही होगा। इसके अलावा शांति का कोई रास्ता नहीं है। भारत का मत एकदम स्पष्ट है। टेरर और टॉक एक साथ नहीं हो सकते। टेरर और ट्रेड एक साथ नहीं चल सकते, और पानी और खून भी एक साथ नहीं बह सकता। मैं आज विश्व समुदाय को भी कहूंगा, हमारी घोषित नीति रही है, अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर पीओके उस पर ही होगी।
All right, so we've heard reactions from Srinagar, Jammu and New Delhi. Let me now go across to two more locations. We have Meghna Dev standing by in Bhuj, and joining me is also my colleague Amritpal Singh from Shehzada Ajit Singh Nagar in Punjab. To you first, Meghna, talk to us about what did you and the people of Bhuj tonight as we speak make of the Prime Minister's speech, the tone and tenor of his speech, and the substance and symbolism behind it as well?
Well, Ramesh, very importantly, I would like to tell you that it's just been half an hour that we have been seeing the city bustling, because before that everybody was glued to their television screens to actually listen to what Prime Minister Narendra Modi had to say, because he would say, the people were expecting that he would say about the mood of the country, he would say what the armed forces have done, he would say how are we going to look at Pakistan and terrorism further. So very importantly, Prime Minister Narendra Modi did speak about how Operation Sindoor continues. The war against terrorism continues. He also said that terrorists, be it anywhere, are not going to be beyond our reach. So that clearly states even if they are in Pakistan, they are not beyond our reach. Besides, he also said that India is not going to have any classification between terrorists and the government. If the government is sponsoring, harboring terrorists, they will consider them as equivalent to terrorists. Besides, also very importantly, he did say, reiterated his statement that he did when he met President Putin. He did say it's not an era of war. He said it again, but he also added this is not an era of terrorism. So clearly, very clear, firm statement, firm body language, aggression with a lot of restraint is what I could read out from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's this message. He also said that the people who wiped out Synindhur from our women, they have got what they deserved. And very importantly, you know, Ramesh, what we clearly see is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has very clearly said, given 2 words of wisdom, I can say, or maybe a warning to Pakistan, that the way they are harboring terrorists, the way they are sowing the seeds of terrorism, they are going to be falling in their own trap. So this is, I can say this can be words of wisdom for Pakistan, or this can be a warning. Clearly, Prime Minister Narendra Modi not mincing words here and saying what is required the most. Not only warning to Pakistan, not only warning to people who are harboring terrorism or, you know, actually having this university of terrorism or terrorists, but also he did applaud the forces, he did applaud the kind of indigenous capabilities that we have developed. So all in all, I can say a very important message. This was something that the people of the country were waiting for, a kind of message that could actually help them also understand that where India is heading at the moment, why India is also not only not only continuing with this Operation Synindhur, because it is going to continue until and unless we all these terrorists are, and not only about the terrorists, but also Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly sending out a message, as we just heard, talks and terror not going hand in hand, talks and trade not going hand in hand. So very clearly, the message has been loud and clear.
Indeed, loud and clear, says Meghna Dev in Bhuj. And as she was reporting there, the hustle and bustle is back to the markets in Bhuj soon after the Prime Minister finishes making his speech. That is a telling commentary on the situation obtaining in the Gujarat, the region as well. To you now, Amrit, you are joining us from Sasnagar in Punjab. As someone who's covered the Foreign Office beat, what do you make of the central message in the Prime Minister's address there? He, among other things, saying that we have only suspended our military action pending good behavior from Pakistan, number one. Number two, he says there's also a message to the West in a sense, because he said nuclear blackmail cannot work from this day onwards.
Yes, I think you've touched upon two very important points. First, about the message to Pakistan. The message to Pakistan, I think from the departure from the past, I think he's made a policy statement in that sense. Earlier, if you remember, you said that, okay, he had said earlier the government's policy was that for some time that terror and talks cannot go hand in hand, and they haven't been talking to Pakistan. But he's raised the bar. He said that any act of terror will be considered an act of war, essentially giving a military threat to Pakistan, saying that we will not distinguish between your government, your army and the terrorists. If any act of terror emanates from your soil, there will be military action from India, you will be hit. So it's a clear military threat to Pakistan that terror has to stop. Second, he said, if talks happen, first terror needs to stop for talks to happen, but if talks happen, then talks will be only centered around terror, one, and second, POK. I think that's a departure from past, because in the past you would have a comprehensive dialogue where you would include all issues. You could discuss waters, you could discuss Sir Creek, you could discuss Kashmir also, their concerns, their issues about Kashmir. Now he's saying that only that part of Kashmir which you have illegally occupied will be discussed. This part of Kashmir, which is under Indian control, is not up for negotiation, is not up on the table. I think that is a significant message. I don't know what it means for talks to go further. How Pakistan would Pakistan be only wanting to talk about Pakistan occupied Kashmir? So it has put, it's a departure from the way you approach the issue, and that's a significant departure. We'll have to see what the consequences, but that's a long way away. That's quite a way, because talks were will only happen once the atmosphere is conducive. By then, what situations change, we'll have to see. But it's a significant departure.
Indeed.
Now, to the international community. The international community would always tell you that, oh, don't fight, stop it, because you're both nuclear power. What if it escalates out of hand? The message today in his address to the nation and also by extension to the world was that nuclear blackmail by Pakistan will be no deterrent. India is in no mood to take this nuclear blackmail just because they're a nuclear power and they can every time get away with things.
Indeed.
Because the world is under threat. They are a threat to the world, and if they do not stop terrorism, he said, if you do not stop, you will be finished. And if you do not decimate terrorism, we will.
All right, let me thank both my colleagues, Amritpal Singh in Sasnagar, Punjab, Meghna Dev joining us from Bhuj in Gujarat. Let me also thank my previous colleagues who joined us from other locations, Vishal Baristow in Srinagar, Ankush Sharma in Jammu, and Debyendu Mondal joining us from New Delhi. All right, time for a very short break coming up on the other side. An expert take on India's Operation Synindhur and the Prime Minister's televised address to the nation.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Joining us are two very special guests, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar and Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey. Gentlemen, welcome to this broadcast. Ambassador Sajjanhar, if I can start with you, what did you make of the Prime Minister's televised address to the nation?
Thank you very much, Ramesh. I think Prime Minister's address did exactly as it was expected to do. Basically, I think first it was an address to our own countrymen, and then it was also an address to the world at large, to the global community at large, and he sent out very many messages. I think he reiterated what India's position was because, over the last few days, since last 2 days, in fact, when, Mr. Donald Trump jumped into the whole thing saying that, he has been, or the United States has been active in putting together the two countries, getting a ceasefire, and then Mr. Marco Rubio also sent out a tweet on in this regard. So I think there were a large number of questions, but he set all those questions to rest, made it very clear that talks and terror cannot go together, trade and talks will not go together, and water and blood will also not flow together. And that was very direct and very focused that, we are going to, if we are going to talk with Pakistan, we are going to talk only about terrorism and only about the return of the illegally occupied, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir with Pakistan. Also, I think what was significant was that, we will not be deterred by nuclear blackmail. We have not been deterred by it. In fact, whether it was in 2016, the Balakot strike, even around, the Uri surgical strike, even at that time, you would recall, Ramesh, and your viewers would recall that, Pakistan had been flaunting and brandishing that we are a nuclear weapon state and we have not got these nuclear weapons to keep them in a museum. We will use them if we need, and we have very small nuclear weapons also which we can use. So that did not deter us in 2016, it did not deter us in 2019, and it has not deterred us this time. This time, of course, we have gone much Further, we have established a new norm as far as response to terror is concerned. I think Prime Minister Modi, I could call it the Modi doctrine, that any act of terror would be tantamount to an act of war, and that is how we are going to respond to it. So I think there were all these many messages. What also came out very clearly was that, as some people might have thought that the Indus Waters Treaty, which we have put in abeyance, if there are discussions between India and Pakistan, that that suspension also might be called off. He was very categorical when he said that that is not going to happen. As he said, blood and water cannot flow together. So
Absolutely.
I think a large number of messages, and very reassuring as far as the country is concerned, that India has done exceedingly well as far as the response to the terror attack, the original escalation that took place from Pakistan on 22nd April, and India has the security forces, the defense forces have come out with flying colors.
Absolutely. General Pandey, as someone who has been a soldier your entire career, what did you make of the PM's speech? Did it tick all the right boxes for you, especially the point where he mentioned that Operation Synindhur has set a new benchmark in India's fight against terrorism? This is the new normal, in his words, and that India would only be focused on a couple of things. One, that any further provocation will get a befitting response, number one. Number two, nuclear blackmail will not work from this moment onwards. And last but not the least, India will not differentiate between the government of Pakistan or its agencies and terrorists and terror organizations. Your thoughts, General Pandey?
Yeah, okay. So I'll quickly take it that in his address, which is very interesting, the messaging is for world, for our own people, then is also for Pakistan.
Right.
Very, very importantly for Pakistan. Right. Now, the body language, when you read, it was quite aggressive, but yet considerate. Right. And possibly he was resonating the sentiments, emotions of 1.4 billion population, which was actually hurt after Pahalgam, while we have been drinking the poison of terrorism for a long time. But Pahalgam had set a new parameter in terms of violence, in which I'll not get into detail of Op Synindhur and everything, which has been actually deliberated and talked of in very many manner. But coming after just about 30 minutes or something, after the Trump's assertion that he was the one who intervened and he talked of trade resulting in this thing, I think in ceasefire, this comes very, very open to the world. That firstly, for a long time, we have been at the receiving end of terror. You people have done nothing. We have come around now, and we will strike at every terror act which will. So when he says Op Synindhur is on, it is not closed. We will watch the behavior of Pakistan, and the terrorists who are operating at his behest is a very, very clear warning to the world, to the Pakistanis and to the terrorists, that look, if you come, operation is going to come along, and we are not only going to hit the terror camps, but we will also hit somebody who is controlling those levers. And to the world and to Trump, he has said that very clearly that this we have done at our own, when our mission was over, our job was done. We have finished the terror infrastructure, we are at the headquarters, and after our job was done, that is why our operation has gone for ceasefire at request of the Pakistani military establishment. So there is a great message, and in that, when he said that no nuclear deterrent is going to stop us, again a messaging, because Trump talked of 2 nuclear powers, right? He has just shattered that theory of Trump, who wanted to take claim on something which was eventually going to happen, because the Pakistanis were rattled, and we were the ones who were offering them every 24 hours and thing called, which is off-ramping, which they were thinking that in the bluster, that Pak-Punjabi bluster, they will continue to scale up and escalate. So when those very, very important airfields the headquarters, some very important assets were hit absolutely at will. That is the time they got rattled and they reached out to the Americans if that is true, which came out, and I'm sure they must have reached out to our establishment, and our establishment said, we never wanted to go ahead. It is up to the Pakistanis. They want to come out, they can stop it. The moment they stop, we will not escalate. That was always on the offer from the evening, from the morning of 7th, when we had carried out the strike. So that is very important. I think he has dehyphenated, the Americans without knowledge, or was it a deliberate attempt? They hyphenated after a long term India and Pakistan at the same level. I think at number of points, the Prime Minister has made a statement of dehyphenating and hyphenating Pakistan with terror, which has been the top even in our community and in the world, which is very important. And I think our media, our people in academia, everybody who writes should talk of it more often in that manner, that Pakistan hyphenates with terror, in which he started a talk by saying that we hit Jamaat-ul-Dawa headquarters, Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters, and HM, that starting from 9/11 to the tube train attacks or in the UK, everything led back to these couple of headquarters where the University of Terror have produced all actions they will taken on terror have come from them. And then he linked Pakistan by saying, then he referred to that very, very important photograph which came out in which one 3-star general, one 2-star general, and 3-star generals are big people. And in Pakistan army, they are equivalent to army commanders. They control everything, right? They were standing behind giving state honor to the dead terrorist. Is a huge symbol. So he has actually exposed number of things. In 20 minutes, this address is fantastic.
Absolutely,
capturing
without doubt.
The national sentiment, sending message to the globe,
Indeed.
And also telling the Pakistanis, next time you do something mischievous, we will strike at will. We'll strike at will. Right? I think that's
absolutely. Coming back to Ambassador Sajjanhar, now sometime after the PM finished delivering his speech and 6 days on from the launch of Operation Synindhur, the question everybody is asking tonight as we speak in India and around the world is the following. Where do you think India and Pakistan will be headed from here onwards? Is the onus now on Pakistan? Also, what happens to the other decisions taken by India? The Indus Water Street remains suspended, visas remain curtailed, civil flights remain banned. So the news will not loosen anytime soon.
No, absolutely. Ramesh, you are very right, and that is my assessment also. That definitely, if the noose had been there to be loosened, after Pakistan comes crawling, that is not the end of the story. I think what we have made it out very clearly as far as the Indus Waters Treaty is that till the time that Pakistan gives credible and irrevocable assurances that it is going to not support terror, that it is going to rescind terror activities against India, the suspension of the IWT will continue. And I think we have already started taking measures which are of a medium-term nature. In any case, India has always, for the last quite some time, it has been asking for a revision of the Indus Waters Treaty. And Pakistan, although it is a lower riparian, it has been getting all the benefits from India, all the water from India, and without any obligation in return. Meaning it's a very one-sided agreement that has been mentioned so many times. But in this case, it is classic that Pakistan has no responsibility, Pakistan has no role to play. It is only a taker, it is only a receiver, but still it keeps on putting obstacles to whatever India wants to do, even under what is provided for under the treaty. So I think as far as all these issues are concerned, unless there is some genuine and authentic and credible action by Pakistan against terrorism, which I don't foresee happening. You see, because let us face it, from 2019 onwards, there have been no high commissioners in the high commissions in the missions of the two countries. There have been no talks whatsoever. You know, our dictum of terror and talks don't go together. That has been from that particular point of time. In 2019, when India abrogated Article 370 and 35A, and Pakistan decided to withdraw its High Commissioner, and so did we. And after that, India also withdrew the MFN treatment. Pakistan, of course, had not accorded the MFN treatment to India. So trade has not been there, the High Commissioners have not been there. There has been no conversation, no negotiation, no dialogue between the two sides at all. So I think it will be basically a status quo ante of Pahalgam. You know, before Pahalgam also, there was nothing happening, even as far as, you know, some of these regional meetings are concerned. For instance, the SAARC, the South Asia Association for Regional Cooperation, the last meeting that took place was in 2014, you would remember, in Kathmandu in November. And 2016, it was to happen in Pakistan. But then a large number of countries, including India, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, etc., all of them said that till you know, terror is emanating from there, until adequate security is not provided, SAARC summit cannot be held. And it has been in abeyance. So I think it is going to go to status quo ante pre-Pahalgam. And then the ball will be very much in Pakistan's court.
Indeed.
To assure India that it is taking some credible measures, which I don't see happening in the near term.
And finally, Ambassador, before we wrap up this conversation, now that India has called Pakistan's nuclear bluff, now that India has said that nuclear blackmail will not work from this moment onwards, do you think the Pakistani army will change its strategic calculus towards India? Do you think General Asim Munir would have learned his lesson, and would he be forced to rethink his strategy or his miscalculations or misadventures going forward?
Yeah, you know, as far as you know, calling of the nuclear bluff, the nuclear blackmail from Pakistan, you know, we have done it already over the last, you know, three times, whether it was the surgical strikes post Uri or it was Balakot post Pulwama. You know, as I mentioned, they have been talking about it. But right now, we have really raised the bar very high, you know, in terms of going not only in hitting 5 terrorist strongholds and holdouts in POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, but also 4 of them in the heart of Punjab, in the heart of Pakistan, that is Murid Ke, Bahawalpur, and, you know, liquidating so many dreaded and well-known terrorists. So I think as far as this nuclear blackmail, which, you know, Pakistan is able to, you know, threaten and worry the whole world, I think that will no longer hold, and India will have to reach out to its partners in the West also, that, you know, it is, we have done with the blackmail, thrown it in the dustbin, in the waste paper basket, and it is not really effective in any manner. And in any case, I think those countries need to put pressure on Pakistan not to make such irresponsible comments and statements. You know, Pakistan could not stand beyond 2 days of the pummeling that it received from India. In fact, not 1 day, because for 2 days, we were acting with great restraint. We were acting in the same domain with great restraint. It's only on the 9th, 10th night and morning that India started hitting out at their airfields. And they saw that they had no answer to that. So I think the vulnerability of Pakistan must be very clear to its people and to its army commanders. And I think earlier, if they thought once or twice, now they're going to think 10 times, if not 100 times, before even contemplating any action against India of this nature.
Right. Ambassador, I'll request you to stay on, please. We'll request you to continue our conversation a little more on this broadcast because we have news coming in thick and fast. In the meantime, let me just get you some more news, viewers. Prime Minister Modi addressed the nation, as we've said before on this broadcast, on Monday evening local time, delivering his first speech since the launch of Operation Synindhur on the 7th of May, India's military response to the Pahalgam terror attack. In his speech, PM Modi said Pakistan seeks survival. It must dismantle its terror infrastructure and there is no other path to peace. Take a listen.
पाकिस्तान को अगर बचना है तो उसे अपने टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का सफाया करना ही होगा। इसके अलावा शांति का कोई रास्ता नहीं है। भारत का मत एकदम स्पष्ट है। टेरर और टॉक एक साथ नहीं हो सकते। टेरर और ट्रेड एक साथ नहीं चल सकते और पानी और खून भी एक साथ नहीं बह सकता। मैं आज विश्व समुदाय को भी कहूंगा, हमारी घोषित नीति रही है, अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर पीओके उस पर ही होगी।
Right, there we heard the Prime Minister delivering an unmistakable message to the world community at large without naming any one country in particular. His message was clear, concise and precise. He's saying that if at all talks will take place going forward between India and Pakistan, they would only focus on two things: terrorism and also on Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Ambassador, coming back to you, you referred to the message to the world community in your early intervention. Could you elaborate on this point, and how do you think the tone and tenor and the substance of his message, his address, would have gone down in some key world capitals tonight as we speak?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point, because there has been so much of disinformation, misinformation and fake news that has been doing the rounds, and particularly, you know, many of the respected newspapers and respected channels around the world have been peddling the lies that Pakistan government and Pakistan army has been dishing out. So I think in the face of all that, for the Prime Minister to come out so categorically and so confidently, because he was very bold, he was very confident, his body language was very strong, and it was very assertive. So I think that in itself sends out a message, because there have been sort of, you know, so many reports coming around that India has lost these many aircrafts, and so many people have died, and so many of the Indian airfields have been damaged and have been hit. And all this is a result of the disinformation propaganda by Pakistan. When asked about what evidence does Pakistan have as far as shooting down Indian aircraft is concerned, they said they've shot down 5 aircrafts. Then the defense minister of Pakistan said, well, it's all over the social media, meaning they have no proof, they have no evidence, but they are making all these unfounded, baseless allegations. So I think Prime Minister's message in this context is very relevant. The second aspect, Ramesh, is, as you mentioned, that there has been all this chatter that has been going out after the United States, after President Donald Trump came up, after Mr. Marco Rubio came up, that, you know, the meeting will be at a neutral site, at another site, and broader issues are going to be discussed. So, you know, there have been so many people who've been asking, is there a change in Indian policy? Because You know, our policy earlier for the last 6 years has been terror and talks cannot go together. And also we have had no diplomatic interactions between the two sides. And if we are going to start talking, so has Pakistan been successful that through the Pahalgam terror attack, it has been able to bring the Kashmir issue in the forefront as far as the international community is concerned, as far as the global agenda is concerned, and you know, get to the other issues of bilateral, you know, what would normally earlier have fallen under the comprehensive bilateral dialogue. Your viewers would recall that when the former External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, she visited Pakistan, Islamabad, for the Heart of Asia conference on the 8th of December 2015. It was decided that this 8-segment CBD, Comprehensive Bilateral Dialogue, will commence. But then we know after that, Prime Minister visited Islamabad, and Pathankot took place on the 1st of January 2016.
Right.
So, you know, right now, all those things that there will be any discussions on any other issues, that has been put to the side.
Right.
And possibly the last aspect in this last word I could say is that the Prime Minister did not mention the name of America, that it had been, you know, contributory or helpful in any way. As we have seen, Shehbaz Sharif was waxing eloquent, thanking America, Turkey, Qatar, China, and whatnot. But Pakistan did not,
Absolutely.
Prime Minister did not mention any of that.
Indeed.
So anything that is being done is being done on India's own terms.
Indeed. On that note, may I thank you, Ambassador Sajjanar, for joining us and sharing your thoughts and perspectives with our viewers in India and around the world. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Well, let me pull up some more sound bites for you. Prime Minister Modi outlined 3 key pillars of India's security doctrine. Firstly, the decisive retaliation. When any terrorist attack on India will be met with a strong and resolute response. India will retaliate on its own terms, targeting terror hubs at their roots. The second is no tolerance for nuclear blackmail. India will not be intimidated by nuclear threats.
हर प्रकार के आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हम सभी का एकजुट रहना, हमारी एकता हमारी सबसे बड़ी शक्ति है। निश्चित तौर पर ये युग युद्ध का नहीं है, लेकिन ये युग आतंकवाद का भी नहीं है। टेररिज्म के खिलाफ जीरो टॉलरेंस, ये एक बेहतर दुनिया की गारंटी है। साथियों, पाकिस्तानी फौज, पाकिस्तान की सरकार जिस तरह आतंकवाद को खाद पानी दे रहे हैं, वो एक दिन पाकिस्तान को ही समाप्त कर देगा।
And it's a wrap on DD India NewsHour. Thank you.